The Department of Basic Education has commissioned a research project after an increase in what has been termed as unusual behavior in schools across the country. Learners in KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, the Western Cape and Gauteng have reportedly shown behavior that is often harmful or for some time, rather. We're now joined by Mhlanga. He speaks for the Basic Education Department. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this afternoon. Perhaps let's get into what unusual behavior is and what called for the commissioning of this report or research.
Good afternoon, Duduzile. Well, there's a lot of different types of behavior that we are seeing that we are not familiar with. We have seen learners collapsing in classrooms, sometimes even outside within the school premises, screaming and shouting and banging doors and banging all sorts of things in what looks like a spiritual takeover of sorts. And we have seen these incidents happening in different provinces. And we thought as a department it was important to understand what is taking place, because no one gives a clear report when these occur. We also noticed that the communities themselves, they disagree on what it is and what should be done. We have seen in some instances members of the community saying, please call pastors to come help us. And another group in the same setup saying, please call traditional healers to come assist. That shows that no one knows exactly what it is that is taking place, or people have different beliefs in regard to what is occurring in the school. But at the end of it all, teaching and learning is disrupted, and the education program is impacted upon negatively. That's why we felt we needed to come up with some sort of a structured approach to obtaining information that will give us a sense of what is taking place, so that we're able to have what will help the sector.
Okay. In teaching and learning being disrupted, does it mean then that the pupils do not return to school when you speak of a spiritual takeover?
Well, they do return, but after a few days. I mean, there are some instances where our colleagues in the provinces will tell us that the learners were hospitalized, but upon checkup, nothing was found. And after 2 days, they went back to school. And the 2 days lost is 2 days that will never be recovered. That situation would force a school normally to arrange a catch-up class over the weekend or some other day when learning has to be extended. That makes the situation at the school to be abnormal. And it's not just that. I mean, there will be conversations after that about what would have taken place at that school. And those conversations, they permeate through the school, making some learners to be looked at in a particular way. That further disrupts the normal order that you would expect to see in a school for teaching and learning to take place without any problem. So the instability is not desirable, but at the same time, it's something that we need to accept that is there, but perhaps more information is needed so that we're able to provide with schools with the guidelines or even develop policies that will help the sector to handle these types of matters. That's why we've enlisted the experience and expertise of those individuals in the universities to come up with a tool that will enable us to gather information that we can analyze and then see the recommendations from them and then determine the way forward.
Okay. As we mentioned, it's the province of KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, the Western Cape and Gauteng. What is it that the department noted specifically when it came to complaints? Perhaps you can give us examples that have already taken place of the so-called strange behavior.
Well, we just chose these schools because of the prevalence of the incidents, but other provinces are also implicated in this. I'm saying implicated because they are part of the system, and we can't exclude some provinces, even where we have video evidence of this occurring. I remember we got something from Bobo and Mhlanga as well. But we are saying that learners have collapsed and no one has been able to explain what is taking place. They've been screaming uncontrollably with no one being able to stop them until they finish whatever they are doing. So it becomes very complex for us to handle it, especially when you don't know what it is. That's why we felt that we needed to give the researchers a period of 6 months to start next week when schools return and do the work, and thereafter compile a report for the minister's attention.
Just how many schools or pupils will be included in the research?
We are targeting 300 learners in the schools, as well as 100 teachers. That's our sample. We believe that after interacting with those people through the questionnaire that requests them to provide detailed information about their experiences, we should be able to have an idea of what is happening.
You mentioned that it will be researchers from certain universities. Is it just at university level when you speak of spiritual takeovers, or have you included some traditional healers also in the research?
Well, as research standards require, we have requested the universities to be the ones leading the work, the information gathering. But if there's a need to involve other people, they will determine that and tap on the experience of those individuals that are experienced in the spiritual areas or even in the social research in terms of understanding what is taking place in different communities and what could be the cause of what is taking place. So they have that task to undertake, and we will give them the space and time to finish the work that we've asked them to do, and then we will then have to see what they come up with before we chat our way forward.
Okay. And you speak to high school pupils, they'll tell you that they're going through a lot. If it's not bullying, it's social media. There's also substance abuse. So there's a myriad of factors that are also involved. When it comes to maybe checking out the children who have presented the so-called unusual behavior, were they taken to medical doctors, for lack of a better expression, so to check out what was going on? Was there substance abuse that was involved? Is it breaking down because somebody's under pressure? Why has it been put down to a spiritual takeover?
Well, it's a combination of things. If you look at a questionnaire that we've put together, we do not exclude the possibility of substance abuse as well. These things could be caused by anything. There are instances of substance abuse. There are also instances of the influence of social media, where there are challenges that people get involved in, where they say, harm yourself in this way and post your video. And you find learners copying what they've seen on social media and attempting to do it to prove that they too can do this dangerous act. So there are those things as well. Then there's alcohol, and then there are other things as well that we cannot explain, such as that incident where you will find the entire classroom, all the learners falling down and just going silent. And in another incident, they will all start screaming uncontrollably, even though they don't come from the same house where they might have consumed the same thing. Some of them, they would come from different places, but they are affected in exactly the same way while they are in a particular location inside the school. So it's a whole range of things that are very difficult to pinpoint to say this is the cause. That's why we are doing this particular exercise to try gather information so that those that are involved, those that have witnessed this, are able to share their experiences so that we are able to find commonalities across all these incidents, hoping that it will take us to a place where we then understand what is taking place and what it is that as a sector we need to do to handle it, to assist those that need assistance, but also to save the teaching and the learning time in our school.
Fair enough. Just at the information at the department's disposal, is there a proliferation of young people, more so who are in school, that are taking up the ancestral calling?
It looks like it. It looks like it because we are receiving more reports now than before of learners who are taking breaks to go and finish their rituals that have got to do with the ancestral calling. And we are finding that some of them are declaring this. And when they do that, they are stigmatized in the school, which is not something that should happen. As Africans in Africa, we should understand these things. But it's clear that education awareness is also required. But for us to do that, we need to interact with the persons that are affected and those that are close to those that are affected, so that we create an environment where we will focus only on teaching and learning, while not ignoring the social factors that we need to take into account when we create an environment in a school for teaching and learning.
Does the Bella Bill take this into account?
Yes, the Bella Bill is about strengthening governance, it's about creating social cohesion, creating understanding, making sure that learners feel welcome in a school, and making sure that those that are in authority, whether you're a school principal or a school governing body member or part of a structure in a school environment that is aimed at looking after the welfare of the school, you need to understand where you stand, your position, and your responsibilities. So it's really about streamlining and strengthening and closing the gaps that have existed in terms of the development of various policies in schools, whether it is language policy or whether it is the admission policy. So discrimination is not allowed in terms of the amendments. Yes, the Constitution says there shouldn't be, but we've seen that over the years, people started using some of the provisions in our policies, in our legislation, for the wrong reasons. So those are some of the things that we're trying to address with some of the provisions in the amendments.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time this afternoon. Elijah Mhlanga speaks for the Department of Basic Education.